Yofi, okay, welcome. Tonight's class, I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming Jewish month of Cheshvan, or is it Mar Cheshvan we'll talk about. It's going to be on Saturday night, is going to be Rosh Chodesh, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the spiritual qualities of this month. We'll see that it can have an impact on us, and there's something we can do about it and utilize the energy of this time. First of all, a little bit about the name of the month. So what exactly is this month called? Right? What do you call it? It's in the Jewish calendar. Is it Cheshvan? Or as we announce in Shul, Mar Cheshvan? Does anybody know what the word Mar means? We add the prefix Mar to the name Cheshvan. Mar Cheshvan is how the Mishnah calls it. Anybody know what the Hebrew word Mar or Aramaic word Mar means? Mem Resh. Mem Resh. Any guesses?
Very?
Sir.
Oh, not very.
Sir?
Yes?
Sir, right?
Sir?
S-I-R.
Oh, very good, sir. I thought you were calling me sir. Very good. Forgot what I was asking. Sir, right. It's like a language of, like, my master is what it can mean in Aramaic, or sir. It's like a language of honor, or a title of honor that you give to somebody. On the other hand, that's the Aramaic translation you just said, sir. It could mean bitter. In Hebrew, the word mar means bitter. Like, right, you eat bitter olives or something like that. So
like we just read in we just read it in Koheles. Isha marmi maves. Woman
Very
as
good.
bitter as death.
Yes. If you get into trouble with a woman, it could be more bitter than death. Right? It's usually our fault. So is it bitter? Is it Mr. Sir? What exactly is the name of the month? Why the prefix mar? And it seems to mean two different things. Which one do we go with? If it means bitter, what would that be referring to? So in this month, in contrast to the previous month, which had tons of holidays, right? We had Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot and the days in between, which were special, and all the days of Sukkot and Simchas Torah. It was packed with spiritual energy and enlightenment. And this month is totally barren. Not one holiday, not one Yom Tov. In that sense, it's bitter. Historically, it was also bitter. Does anybody know what great event happened during the month of Cheshvan? A bitter one. On the 17th of Cheshvan was when the waters of the flood began to come down. The flood started on the 17th of Cheshvan of this month. In fact, another name for this month is Bul, which is reminiscent of the word Mabul, which means flood, right? So historically, it's not such a pleasant month, and it's lacking holidays, which makes it a little bit bitter and dreary compared to the previous ones. On the other hand, we seem to have a contrasting definition of Mar, which is, like this elevated, exalted status of Mr. or Sir, a title of honor. So seems to be some sort of ambivalence here. We're not quite sure how to pin it down, and I want to talk about that tonight. To get to the bottom, or at least a little bit deeper into what's happening in the month of Cheshvan and what does it mean to us. But first, we have to establish that it actually makes a difference, right? We talk about, in a regular newspaper, you could find a horoscope, right? Depending on what month you're born or what day of the week you're born, all kinds of silly things are written over there. And right, we make light of that. But in Judaism, is there at all a place for astrology and the influence of the stars and the heavens? On the one hand, it seems to be a contradiction. On the one hand, we say in the Gemara famously, Ein mazal leYisrael. The zodiac, the astrological signs, whether, right, Virgo or Scorpio or whatever, Libra, it doesn't make a difference. They do not impact the person whatsoever. Ein mazal leYisrael. The Jewish people, they don't have any mazal. There's no astrological influence over them. That's what it seems to be saying. On the other hand, if you go to any Jewish simcha, all you'll hear about is Mazel Tov, Mazal Tov. We're saying you should have a good flow, that the astrological arrangements should be in your favor. You should have a good flow. So we give it lots of credence. That's like the ultimate blessing that we give at a happy function. So the first thing that we have to understand is that, in fact, in fact, the heavens and the arrangement of the stars do have quite an influence on a person, but there's a caveat. Okay, just to establish that they do. One example, a very prominent one, is the Gemara in Shabbat, page 156. It says over there, a whole menu. If you were born in the month... Oh, right, one moment. If you were born in the month of, if you're born in the month under the mazal of Mars, then you will be like a very blood-oriented person. You might be a murderer, you might be a shochet, but it will influence you that you'll have a propensity towards blood. And it even talks about what day of the week a person was born on. It says if you're born on a Monday, the second day of the week, you'll be a very particular person, because on day 2 of creation, God split up the waters from below and the waters from above, and he made this sort of division. So you'll also be like this divisive person who everything has to be just so. That could be good or bad, right? You could be this angry person when things don't go your way, or you can be like this top CEO who sees exactly how the company should be structured and how it should be managed. Right? There's everything you can use for good or bad. If a person's born on Tuesday, another example, the Gemara there says it'll be very likely that he'll be more wealthy, or she'll be more wealthy, because on that day Hashem created the vegetation and the grass and the weeds. They spread easily, right? There's an abundance of them. On the other hand, there's a lack of a sense of boundaries. Just like the grass grows into wherever it doesn't belong, you also might be less particular about boundaries. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? So it's neither, right? It's neutral. You could use it as you will. You'll be more willing to bring a person into your house at the wrong time if he needs the help, right? I'll go out of my way. I'll overextend myself. I'll do things for people even though it's beyond my comfort zone and beyond my job description, right? So it could be a positive thing. But nevertheless, there will be an influence. A person will have a certain direction, a certain push based on the arrangement of the stars, or the day of the week he was born, the time of the month he was born. It doesn't bind you to be a particular type of person, but it will influence you significantly. However, in the same token, we say, Ein mazal Israel, there's no mazel, there's no influence for the Jewish people. We're like beyond all of this. So what that means can't be that it doesn't apply to us at all, as we said. It means that we're not bound to it. If we'd like, we can rise above it, come close to Hashem, who is the one directing the influence of the stars. If we connect ourselves to him through prayer, through good deeds, then he will change things around as necessary, right? So even if the mazel is saying that we should not be wealthy, Hashem could say, no, because of your prayers, I will bring you wealth, etc., and so forth, right? So we are heavily influenced by the astrological signs, by the arrangement of the stars. They don't define who we are, but they certainly push us in a certain direction. And in that regard, it's in our favor to understand and get a sense for what's going on at a particular time of year, so that we can utilize the energy that's in the air, as the Gemara that I just quoted said. One of the most remarkable Gemaras about this is a piece in the Jerusalem Talmud. You know, the first war that the Jews fought with Amalek had this very strange feature, and it was all dependent on how Moshe Rabbeinu held his hands. If his hands were held up high, then the Jewish people would succeed. And if he would bring his hands down, then the Jewish people would lose in battle to Amalek. And the Mishnah says, like, his hands are what are winning and losing the war? Certainly not. So the Mishnah says we have our eyes towards heaven, then Hashem protects us. But if we, shift our gaze downwards and lose connection to Hashem, then we won't be victorious in battle. The Jerusalem Talmud said over there something fantastic. It says that Amalek was a great astrologer. And into that war, to attack the Jewish people, they chose their soldiers very carefully. They chose the soldiers whose birthday it was on that day of the fight, because they're very wise and powerful astrologers. And they said, anybody whose birthday it is will have a very good mazel, right? He'll have good luck, a good fortune on this day, and it'll be much harder to defeat the Amalekis in battle if it's their birthday. So all of the birthday boys, all of the Amalek birthday boys went into battle so they can increase their chances of winning. And in that, says Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and what was Moshe doing when he lifted up his hands? The Gemara says he was switching around the mazalot. He was switching around the orientation of the stars. It's this Amaleki's birthday. So therefore he should be successful in battle, because that's what the stars are determining. Moshe Rabbeinu, by lifting up his hands, moved the stars around, or symbolized that when we connect ourselves to the highest source of God, Hashem will take care of whatever needs to happen. He'll push this star over there, he'll push that over there, and he'll make it that that birthday boy won't be as lucky as he ought to be. Right, so here is a very graphic and fantastic description of our relationship with the stars. Yes, they have an influence. You'll have better fortune on your birthday officially. But depending on your relationship with Hashem, if the hands are up, meaning if you're looking heavenwards, then God can rearrange it and make it better for you, and God forbid the opposite as well, right? If the stars say one way, but the relationship with Hashem says a different way, then that will also override it. Okay, so the first thing we've established is, yes, it does make a difference what's going on up there in the stars. The way Hashem designed his world is he brings down the flow from heaven through the stars, the planets, all the astrology stuff, and it comes down into our world. So therefore, it's in our favor to know what's going on up there. Okay, so what is going on up there? What is anybody born in Cheshvan in this month? Anybody know what the zodiac sign for this month is? You'd have to unmute yourselves. It could be you're screaming at your computer, but I can't hear. Anybody?
Scorpio.
Scorpio, that's right. Scorpio in English, and in Hebrew it's akrav, which means the same thing, scorpion. Literally a scorpion. So we have to learn a little bit about the nature of a scorpion. Thank God there's plenty to say about it in Chazal. Probably the best way to approach it. To learn about the scorpion, often you can learn a lot from opposites. So I'd like to contrast Scorpio to Snako. Snako is not a zodiac sign, but the Gemara does contrast the two. Okay, there seems to be a very strange and seemingly benign halacha that we learn in the Gemara in Brachos. It says, if a person is in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, they're in the middle of their tefillah, talking to God, and a snake starts coming towards them. Not poised to attack. They just see a snake coming by. They should continue their prayer. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He's probably not going to bite you. So, continue, unless you're like extremely disturbed by it because you have, for some reason, you get nervous around snakes. Otherwise, you should just continue praying. Don't worry about it. In contrast, if there's an akrav, if there's a scorpion nearby while you're praying, stop praying, the Gemara says. Stop and get the scorpion away, or you get away from the scorpion. Why? So Rashi explains. When it comes to a snake, if you don't provoke him, you don't disturb the snake, he's not going to attack you. However, a scorpion will attack even if he's unprovoked. So there's a very high likelihood that a person's in danger if he's around a scorpion. Okay, and this is a very important point. We're talking about a physical scorpion, literally a scorpion, but it's also going to tell us about the mazal, the spiritual energy called Scorpio, which is in the world at this time. It attacks even when it's not provoked. In contrast to a snake, which you have to disturb it, you have to rile it up to get it to pounce. When it comes to a scorpion, even if you're just sitting by, you're in danger when there's a scorpion around. Okay, so right now, we're about to enter the time of the scorpion, right? There's the akrav is near. Now, what is this? What's going on? What's the difference? What's the depth? What's the depth of the difference between a snake and a scorpion? So the Gemara in Chagiga adds another piece here. We said that a scorpion attacks unprovoked. Gemara says that a scorpion bite infuses a person with a deep chill, like this inner cold. And therefore, the Gemara says that you should never treat a scorpion bite with cold, an ice pack. If a person, God forbid, gets bitten by a scorpion, the way to treat it is with heat. Because heat is the opposite of a scorpion bite. Okay, so we've just learned something else. It sounds like we're talking about literal scorpions, but there, again, you have to look a little bit deeper to get the underlying messages here. Scorpion, number one, attacks even unprovoked. And number two, it's cold. It's cold. Its essence, it's cold. That's what injects into a person. Now, that already sounds a little bit more like the month of Cheshvan. Now, right, the leaves are changing. The weather's getting a bit colder. There's some chill in the air. Cold in general comes when you're just sitting by, right? You don't have to have any external force making you cold. It comes from within. Cold comes from within. The word akrav itself, scorpion, if you rearrange the letters ayin, kuf, resh, base, it's kar av, a thick coldness. The very name of a scorpion means cold, this chill, freezing cold of a scorpion. Before we get further in there, let's just contrast it. We said it's the opposite of a snake. A snake will only attack when provoked. A snake, how do you say snake in Hebrew, is nachash. Chash means like sensory. It's the feeling. Chush is a sense, like this physical touch. Lust. If a person has lust for something, he's chash for it. A snake represents the Yetzer Hara of passion, of heat, of getting swept up in the moment and emotions. When you provoke a snake, it will pounce on you. Because, right, if you rile up your emotions, if you rile up your senses, you'll suddenly be overcome by lust or by a strong urge, and you'll make this rash the choice that you wish you wouldn't have made. Right? That is the attack of the snake. If you disturb it, you incite the snake, then you're going to heat yourself up, and you're not going to be able to contain yourself. And that's in contrast to an akrav. The scorpion attacks even undisturbed. It's this chilling, cold feeling of it could be just like apathy. I'm just going to sit around, whatever, nothing really matters. It totally freezes a person, and could just, right, when things are cold, right, the cells stop shaking. Is that right? And things just chill out, and you could just lay in bed all day, depressed about life. That is the Yetzer Hara of. These are two different types of Yetzer Hara. The nachash, the snake, is that lust, emotional feeling where a person could just get swept up. As opposed to the Yetzer Hara of an akrav, a scorpion, is that cold immobility, frozen, uninterested in engaging the world around you. Whatever, doesn't make a difference, right? Apathetic. The end result of that state of being, God forbid, is the word akrav also spells akar rav, to uproot the master. If a person becomes so apathetic and so not interested in engaging the world, he'll just give up on a relationship with God. He will uproot the master of the universe from his life. It makes no difference. Nothing really matters. Right? That is the end of the line. Right? And God forbid, if you've ever seen a person fall into such a state, it is very dreary and gloomy, and it's very hard to get him out of it. Right? It's inactivity, that frozen, depressed state. God forbid. That's why there've been many movements during the time of Corona, for example, right, to try to engage the older community somehow. They're cooped up in there. They're doing nothing. They can't visit their family. They can't speak to their family, and they're really in danger of emotional destruction. It's that frozen still, right? That is the danger of the scorpion. To take it a little bit further, Amalek, who we mentioned earlier, the enemy Amalek, the primal enemy of the Jewish people. What does it describe they're doing to the Jewish people? Asher karcha baderech. Amalek is the one who chilled you on the way. We came out of Egypt, we were inspired, the whole planet was inspired to do the service of Hashem. And comes Amalek and attacked, and they cooled everything down. Wait, not so fast. Don't be extreme. Don't jump into the commitment. Just relax. Nah, don't take it so seriously. That is Amalek. Incidentally, the gematria of Amalek, the numerical value, Ayin Mem Lamed Kuf, is 240. 240 is the same numerical value as Mem Resh, Mar, bitter. There we have that prefix of Cheshvan. Amalek is Mar, is that bitterness. It is that bitter chill that can lead a person to inactivity and the danger of depression and inaction. I'm going to take it a little bit, we're going to take it back to the light. Don't worry. We are not, right? We're describing a little bit of the energy, which this is the dangerous side of it, right? It gives a new meaning. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot which describes the 10 different miracles that happened in the temple. And one of the miracles that happened in the temple was a Jew was never attacked by a snake or a scorpion. Right? So that certainly means literally. Literally, there was never a snake or a scorpion attack in the temple. But figuratively speaking as well, this other deeper level of it, not a literal snake, but also an emotional, that kind of attack. When the Jews came to the temple during the Shalosh Regalim, they wouldn't be attacked by this powerful lust or by this chilling, cold, apathetic feeling. That was the miracle that would happen in the times of the temple. Also gives appreciation the pit that Yosef HaTzadik was thrown into. It says it was empty, there was no water there, but there were snakes and scorpions. Again, these are the two primary evil things pulling down on a person. There's that lust, that heated passion. When you shake it up, you can get overwhelmed and make, a decision that you wouldn't have otherwise made. Acting from emotion. And on the other hand, you have the scorpion, that frozen, stuck feeling. Okay, so let's talk about Cheshvan now. Cheshvan is the month of the Akrab, the scorpion. Spiritually, there are no holidays. No holidays. There's nothing inspiring. No external stimulus to give us that boost and take us and shake us up, right? The number one remedy to depression is to get the person active and moving and volunteering, etc. There's none of that built into the calendar of Cheshvan. In that sense, it's cold, right? Physically, it's also cold. It's literally getting colder now. The chill begins to settle in. People are impacted by that. After the tremendous uplift of the high holidays, we have this just suddenly this chilling silence. Everything's stagnant. And it's even like the feeling, okay, the holidays are over. The holidays are behind us now. That's like the talk now. Okay, now the Chagim are over and regular life begins. Let me get back to work. Let me focus on whatever, and even Shabbos ends earlier. You go to sleep early on Friday night. You take a nap during the day. Shabbos comes and goes. You don't even feel it, right? You can get away without really engaging your spiritual life, without invigorating your relationship with Hashem. Okay, so what's the upside of this? As we said earlier, the astrological influences, they're not objectively good or bad. They could push a person in one direction, but it could be utilized one way or the other. And for example, a person who was born under the mazal of Mars, when that planet is more powerful, he'll have a propensity towards blood. So what does that mean? He could be a murderer, God forbid, or he could be a mohel, a mohel who does a bris, or a shochet, something else, or like a doctor, right, who deals with blood. You could use the energy in various ways. So I'd like to point out something fascinating. What is the positivity in coldness? Kar. What is positive about kar? What could possibly be good about that? That chilling feeling which can destroy a person, right? Just lead him to inactivity and disinterest in the world, which is such a danger, a real, true danger. I don't mean to make light of that at all. So let's take a look at another fascinating remez. I heard this from Rabbi Itamar Schwartz. He wrote a whole series of books called Bilvavi Mishkan Evne. A very deep thinking person. He pointed out the following thing. He said, we have these two opposing forces, a snake and a scorpion, hot and cold. Take the gematria of hot and cold. In Hebrew, Cham v'kar. Chet mem means hot, cham, v'kar, and cold. Take those two words in Hebrew. So cham is chet mem, that's 48. V'kar is 306, right? Vav kuf resh. If you add them together, you have 354. The number 354 is the same gematria as the word simcha, happiness. Cham v'kar is simcha, happiness. The word simcha is 353. You can always add one, including the word itself, 354. So somehow, the proper unity, the proper balance between heat and cold, these two opposing energies, if you can find the right balance between them and a way for them to live in harmony, the result will be, this unity will be simcha. Simcha, happiness, true, deep happiness. Now, how could that be? What positive, happy thing can come from cold? Seemingly cold is just the opposite, right? The cold shoulder, right, is not interested in relationship. So I think if you look at the language itself, there's certain expressions we have which plays on this analogy, and that is on this metaphor. When a person's getting overexcited, right, we say to him, chill out, right? You're overreacting. You're running away with your emotions, and you're not thinking about this rationally. You're getting super upset or overly emotional about it. Chill out. We say chill out, right? Get colder. Recommending that you add a little bit of cold to your constitution. It means, in other words, come back to earth. To settle down your emotions a little bit and use your mind. Think about things rationally without getting excited. It's a very valuable and necessary skill to have, lest you be swept up by any wind that blows your way. I'm angry, I'm excited, I'm happy, right? You could just flop back and forth. That's not healthy either. There's another expression, we call it the cold intellect, right? The mind, the cold mathematical mind, right? What that means is there's no infiltration by outside forces. I'm sitting and I'm balanced and I could be as objective as I'm able. The cold intellect, the ideal intellect, is one that's without bias. I'm not being pushed by external stimuli. That is the value and the necessity of coldness. When there's nothing exciting happening around you, when there's no emotion welling up inside of you, you can finally take an objective and clear look at what's going on. Wait a minute. Should I be involved in this relationship? Should I be going to this place? How am I spending my time? You could start to really reconsider and make more responsible and positive decisions if you just learn to chill out a little bit. An interesting example, I think, is when I went to, I was in a course for education, and there was the whole debate about using props and teach and all kinds of interesting aids to teach, right? You bring in puppets, depending on the age you're dealing with, all sorts of graphs and diagrams and charts and just pictures and making plays and shows with the kids, right? All kinds of external stimuli to get the kids excited about learning. So certainly, right, it sounds like a good thing. You're making it easier and more palatable for them to digest the information. So props are fantastic, right? They help to get the message across. Sesame Street, right? What a fantastic thing. How much can it teach a kid, right? You have these things dancing around the screen and everything's just, flowing into the child and he's just, entertained and learning at the same time. Edutainment. Right? At the same time, I recall hearing from Yaakov Weinberg, he said, Sesame Street, worst thing to ever happen to education, right? What's the problem? If it's so exciting, then that's the only way I'll be able to learn, right? When you take these characters off the screen or you turn the television off, finished, right? My mind is out. Your mind just atrophies if it doesn't learn to work for itself. If you're completely reliant on the props and the external stimulus, then you're never going to be able to move forward on your own. It works in Judaism as well, right? We have now at our fingertips access to so many inspiring classes and speakers, and especially now that it's all gone virtual, everyone is virtual, and every other day there's this fantastic speaker and that fantastic speaker, and like class after class, you can just hear one inspiring thing after the next. The problem is if you're listening to a fantastic class and the class ends, and now the next thing you do is just push next, and you start listening to another fantastic class, then where does that leave you? You're bouncing from one stimulus to the next, and you'll never be able to work on it on your own, to work through the ideas, to integrate them into your personality, to see if I'm living in accordance with these fantastic ideas that I'm hearing. I'm just looking to boost myself emotionally and get myself excited, and I constantly have to just keep exciting yourself, and those classes aren't exciting anymore, and you have to keep upping the threshold because you become desensitized to certain levels of inspiration, right? So it could be props and external stimulus is necessary, but you can't let it crush you. So here, let's talk about the Jewish calendar. Elul, Tishrei was a tremendously energetic and exciting time. There's shofar, there's slichos, there's holidays, there's food and extra prayers and all kinds of stimulation. The sukkah and the prayer and the arba minim, and there's hallel, all these things can really excite a person and really put them in a fantastic place. It's a sliding scale, but somehow, some way or another, you're going to move forward and you get a little bit closer and a little bit more clarity during such a time. However, if you can only operate at a time like that, if the only time you feel connected to God is when there's all of that going on, then you're in danger. Right? 'Cause, nothing gold can stay, as they say, right? It's not going to stay like that forever. And what are you going to do when the holidays are over? When suddenly, you come out of Sukkot the first day or two, I think people feel generally energized, maybe a little bit exhausted. It's like this, wow, I just did such a fantastic thing. But now the days and the weeks go by and we get deep into Cheshvan, and you're like, okay, now your Judaism begins to feel flat. Like, okay, well, I'm not really doing anything, am I? So that is why it's necessary to learn how to utilize this time of the cold. A time when there's not so much stuff going on, just basically my daily schedule. Now I can make real, rational, and responsible choices and decisions. Sit back and consider, okay, I just went through a whole month and a half of unbelievable holidays and spiritual uplift. Okay, how am I going to implement that into my life? The crowd is now silenced, and there's no noise around you. You don't have to take any more days off of work, right? It's business as usual. Am I just going to go back to work and whatever? Or, okay, how am I going to spend more time doing Jewish learning? How am I going to spend more time praying? How am I going to connect to the people in my life that Hashem wants me to connect to? Right? To make conscious and careful and calculated steps, you need the silence and the cold that Cheshvan provides. That's the point. Cheshvan is a time of cold. It seems like spiritual barrenness. There's nothing going on. So the danger is, God forbid, a person could become depressed and unmotivated and apathetic and whatever, forget about it. Let me just do what I'm doing. I don't really care. That's the danger. But the power of Cheshvan is now we have an opportunity to actually integrate all those fantastic lessons into our lives. Without the stimulus, without the lulav, without the sukkah, without the slichos, without the davening, when things are quiet, now you can start thinking, how am I going to change slightly the course of my life? Let me take some calculated steps forward. This is the opportunity. Around Simchas Torah, my children came home with like huge sacks of candy. Now they have their store of candy, and now they have to responsibly think about what to do with it. Am I going to eat it all in one shot? It's impossible. So let me calculate, okay, some on this day, some on that day. That's what every Jew went through. We got this gigantic sack of candy. You can't eat it all at the holiday. You're not going to sit there eating during a kafos. You just come home with a huge goodie bag filled with Elul and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot. You have it all there. Now you have to unpack and arrange it. Where does it belong in my life? During Yom Kippur, I had these feelings that I wanted to do more of this. I wanted to contact my family more. I wanted to repair my relationships. I wanted to learn more Torah. I wanted to pray more. I came home with a whole goodie bag filled with aspirations and dreams. Now you have to carefully think, where am I going to place it in my life? On which day will I do what and how, and small steps and calculated steps, right? Utilizing that cold emptiness of Cheshvan to make responsible decisions. So just to wrap it up, I think there's a fantastic secret here. There's a Yalkut Shimoni, one of the Midrashim, in Sefer Melachim. It says that the first temple, Shlomo Melech, when he built the first temple, he actually finished the building during Cheshvan. Completed the whole building. It was ready to go. All you had to do is just, cut the tape and everybody can go in. Unlock the doors, open this. But they held it back. Hashem said, no, you're going to wait 12 months. We're going to open the Beis Hamikdash in Tishrei next year. There's going to be all the holidays, and we want to make the Beis Hamikdash part of that celebration. So Cheshvan got left out. They finished the building on Cheshvan. It was ready to go. No inauguration until next year on a different month. So the Midrash says that in the future, Hashem is going to repay the month of Cheshvan. The third temple is going to be inaugurated in the month of Cheshvan. When we get the third Beit HaMikdash, the opening day will be Cheshvan. I think a part of that is what we just discussed. In the excitement and the hype of Tishrei, you open up a Beis HaMikdash, everything's fantastic, but that can fade. And in fact, the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. We couldn't hold on to it. If you're working off of passion and emotion, you can get pretty high, but you won't sustain it. When you know how to utilize and mix properly between hot and cold, you have the cold background of Cheshvan, and then you add in your own. You take the stimulation that you got beforehand, and you make that mixture of kar v'cham, which is gematria simcha. When you build the temple like that, a temple which is inaugurated in Cheshvan, that will sustain, that will last forever. The third temple will not be destroyed. That's why it will be inaugurated in Cheshvan. It will come from a responsible, calculated place, not caught up in hype. Similarly, the Hasidic books, the Bnei Yissaschar brings down from the Sefer Yetzirah, a Kabbalistic work perhaps written by Adam Harishon himself. It's not clear who the author is, but it goes very, very far back. This Kabbalistic work assigns a Hebrew letter to every month of the year. Every month has a letter. What's the letter of Cheshvan? Nun. Nun. Nun, right? What does the letter of Nun represent? First of all, if you look at it, a Nun, sometimes we write it like an L, but it's actually, if you look in a Sefer Torah, it has a bit of a hat over here. It's like a hunched over. It's this my head low. I'm not particularly inspired. I'm even hunched over. That's the Nun. And in fact, in Ashrei, the famous Tehillim we say before Mincha, we say a few times each day, Ashrei Yoshvei V'techa Od Yaluchasela, or in that Tehillim, Tehillah David, it goes through each letter of the alphabet. B'chol Yom Avarcheka as bet, I will bless you every day. Gadol Hashem Amen Dor Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet Hey. There's one letter that it skips. Malchutcha, Malchut Kol Alamim, that's Mem. So the next letter should be Nun. It skips over and says, Somech Hashem L'chol HaNaflim. It skips over the letter of Nun in Ashrei. The Gemara asks, why? The Gemara says, King David, when he was writing this Tehillim down, he saw prophetically that the Jewish people will fall. And Nun represents Nefilah. Nefilah, falling, is the letter Nun. And there's a pasuk which says, Nafla lo tosif kum betulat Yisrael. They will fall and they will not get back up. The maiden of Israel, Betulat Yisrael, will fall and they won't get back up. Nafla lo tosif kum. The letter Nun represents this permanent fall, God forbid, that you cannot recover from. And therefore, David skipped over that letter in Ashrei. And that's the letter of Cheshvan. And perhaps we can understand why. If a person falls into that cold, dreary, depressed, apathetic state, he may not come back from there. But the Gemara says that Ma'arava in Israel, this is how they read the verse. Nafla lo tosif, kum betulat Yisrael. They move the comma over. You've fallen, but you will no longer fall. Kum betulat Yisrael. Get up, and now you can stand forever. You will never fall again. That same nun, which is hunched over, represents falling into a state of apathy. If you utilize that properly, if you utilize that low properly, we're now in the low of the month of Cheshvan. If you utilize that properly, you can transform it into, as they say in Israel, nafla lo tosif. It's not going to fall anymore. Kum betulat Israel. Get up, and you'll stay up forever. The Beis Hamikdash will be built in Cheshvan, and it will never fall again. Because if you utilize this energy of Cheshvan, you can actually integrate things into your life permanently. You can make constant, consistent change, because it's not coming from the hype and the mob mentality. None of that. It's you in your own self, with your own family and your own decisions, without any external thing pushing you in a particular direction. And you make the decisions. I'm going to learn a little more. I'm going to pray a little more. That's nafla lo tosif kum. The letter nun, which represents the falling down into this lower, uninspired state, that could actually be the seeds of redemption. And in fact, nun has another form. If it comes at the end of a word, it's a nun sofit. It's just a straight line. One of the few letters that actually goes beneath the line. It dips down, representing that from that lowest state, you can bring Hashem's holiness back deep into that lowest state. The holy letters in the Sefer Torah. That holy nun could go down into a deeper state than the other levels, than the other letters. And it can pick a person up even from there and become a pipe from that lowest state, from the bottom of the nun all the way up. Lo tosif, right? Kum betulat Israel. It's an unbelievable thing, right? So the inspiring thing about Cheshvan is that it's so uninspiring. It's that bitterness, that very bitterness, Mar Cheshvan, which we says is Amalek. It's that chilling, cold, depressing feeling that can come without any holidays, without anything. That also can turn into Mar Cheshvan, Sir Cheshvan, Mr. Cheshvan, that powerful force, that honorable, respectful title, which can establish a real and concrete and calculated change in a person's life. That bitterness is the same honorable Sir, Mar, Mr. Cheshvan, that it can be changed into through our efforts. That's what I wanted to share with you tonight. Oh, so the title of the class, I forgot about that, was Scorpions, Sauerkraut, and Depression. So Scorpions and Depression, I think we addressed. Sauerkraut, I needed a good S word, and I thought it was actually fitting. Sauerkraut is just cabbage, right? But cabbage is going to go bad, and cabbage is very uninspiring. But if you let it ferment and transform the sugars into whatever it transforms into to make it sauerkraut, then it can last forever, or not forever, but it can last, it has a much longer shelf life, especially if you put it into a cold refrigerator. And therefore you can transform that rotten, uninspired state into something that's actually quite useful and tastes good on your hot dog. That is what I would like to share with you this Erev Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, God willing, would be Motzei Shabbos. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. What tribe corresponds to Cheshvan? You know?
Excellent question. Yes, as you know, each month also has a tribe. The tribe for Cheshvan, according to most versions, there's a lot of complication, is Menashe, Yosef's son of Menashe, which is interesting. He was the one that was born in the exile. And his name means that I've forgotten all of the affliction. I was outcasted by my brothers, and I was accused for things, and I was thrown into jail. And now, God, you've lifted me up, right? From that lowest state, born in Egypt, I was a slave, and I was outcast of my family and my brothers. Nashani Elohim et kol amali. God has made me forget all of my hardships. Right? The hardship of Cheshvan is transformed into the son whose name we bless our sons with, Menashe. That is the tribe, and it fits in perfectly, as you see. Yeah. There's also a color. The color is violet. That I can't explain. Yeah, I don't know what violet has to do with any of this. Okay, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you were a little bit enlightened.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And could I ask a quick question? I feel like it's connecting to me in a certain way, and I just want to know if I'm off base with it a little bit. But I sort of feel like it's a built-in way that Hashem is trying to remind us that balance is very important in life, and that sometimes, while it is joyful, it's exciting, all of these things, the holidays and everything, also, it is a lot. There's a lot of effort put into it. There can be a lot of work. There can be stress, anxiety, lots of different things. I'm speaking for myself. I'm speaking for nobody else at all. But I'm just saying there can be that. And so
I've heard of such a thing. I've heard of such a thing. Yeah.
you've heard of it before. Okay. So, you know, it is nice that it's almost like, okay, now there's just a little break where we can decompress and just have a little bit of balance to, you know, reflect, think about the holidays and just take a little breather. And I feel like it's Hashem's way of saying that's okay. It's okay if there aren't always, like in our world today, people, it's almost like bragging rights. Like, I'm so busy. I never have time to do this. It's like people feel like they need to compete with each other to be the busiest person. But sometimes like we forget, well, actually, it's fine if you take time for yourself sometimes, or time to just be with your family, just be present, be in the moment, nothing exciting at all happening, just a conversation, just whatever, just being in the moment. And I feel like it's beautiful the way that Hashem laid this out, where we go through so much nonstop, and then we have a little, or not so little, a month of just time to use however best suits us and our family. But it seems to me that it's, you know, it's just a beautiful way that Hashem laid it out, and a reminder that it's okay to have balance in our lives, and we don't always have to be going 100 miles per hour.
Very nice, beautiful, very, very well expressed. I think you hit it on the nose. Right? It's more than just okay. That's the one thing. It's not just okay to have balance. It's absolutely necessary. Right? This is the way that He built it in.
Yes.
And paradoxically, there's you can grow a lot during those months of Elul and Tishrei with all the holidays and all the busyness.
Sure.
But there's a certain type of growth that just can't happen because you're so busy that you won't be able to reach certain parts of your life, and you won't be able to have that extra time that you need with yourself and with your family to make other types of change. So
right.
Certainly, and yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And as you said, right, Cham Vikar, cold and hot, that fusion of the off times, the down times, so to speak, and the super hyper and busy times, that's a completely necessary thing to create the ideal state. Very all set. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. It was beautiful. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mama.
Beautiful.
Alrighty.
Ah, so nice.
This is my mother, Mrs. Gilbert. Please meet my mother. She's to your left.
Hello, hello. I'm not going to get on camera, but I really hope to meet you someday in person.
Looking forward as well. Yeah.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Shabbat